Okay, so I'm just going to move locations so you're not hearing the wonders of basketball, as good as they are. So, okay, I'm just pouring my water, so just give me 2 secs so I realised it was empty. Excuse the picture of me here on the front. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to move. Okay, so can everyone hear me quite fine?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So who would like to start with the Lord's Prayer so we can get this underway?
Yeah, I'll read it, Warren.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Okay. O thou from who the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light, and vibration, may your light be experienced in my utmost holiness. Your heavenly domain approaches. Let your will come true in the universe, all that vibrates, just as on earth, that is material and dense. Give us wisdom, understanding, assistance for our daily need. Detach the fetters of faults that bind us, like we let go of the guilt of others. Let us not be lost in superficial things, materialism, common temptations, but let us be freed from that which keeps us from our true purpose. From you comes the all-working will, the lively strength to act, the song that beautifies all and renews itself from age to age, sealed in trust and faith and truth. I confirm this with my entire being.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve. Okay, so I always like to start with a bit of a word and see what I drew up. And I drew a very interesting one today because the Dark Night of the Soul. I got this. Now, this is the Ruin Stone in reverse for Warrior. So this is the non-reversed one is about a warrior cutting things forward, moving forward, breaking down old energies and slashing them. The reversed one is a bit of a warning. It says, through hasty or ill-timed action, life force leaks out or is spilled away. So it calls for examining your motives carefully about self-conquest or dominating others. And as I read that, it's a warning or reminder, possibly is a better word than warning. Are we looking outside ourselves, or are we actually going within and getting our own lessons? So are we staying mindfully present, which means really focused on each task, each day, living in the moment, working on ourselves rather than looking outside ourselves? So it's a great message just about reminding ourselves, like DeMartini's taught, the scriptures is teaching is the kingdom of heaven is within us. That's where we go with. So the kingdom of heaven, the warrior, the work starts within. So really, that's really the message of today, which is about shadow work and going within. That's what's going to come up today. So we went through this key last week as well, the keys of Enoch, which just a bit of a reminder, which was very much about the higher brotherhoods who are coming to actually open up new gateways and new energies. So we went into all this last week.
I've got all that.
Okay, so that was our text from last week. For we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no evil. For thou art with me, your rod and your staff comfort me. Now, I've got a couple of Psalms which I'm starting with today. So I felt to actually do some activations on this. So I was led very strongly to a couple of Psalms which I wasn't planning to read, but this is probably the best activation on the Dark Night of the Soul, the hero's journey and what's called the next stage after the test. So you may remember last week, but there's that point when you cross the threshold, when you make a decision to move onto your path and move into the hero's journey, where it's a constant choice where you say, I'm going to actually do this. In other words, my plan is to move into this and actually live this shadow life and do the work within. So it's kind of like that moment when you make that choice that I will walk the hero's journey and I will live that higher life and I will live that higher purpose. So let's just go to Psalm 88, which I'm going to read, which is quite a heavy one in a way to start with. So, Lord God of my salvation, I've cried day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you and incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is full of trouble. Christine, wow, I opened my Bible, it opened at that page. Yeah, I got this so strongly, Christine, very strongly for the day. The one thing I'll probably start, it's a very woeful psalm in a sense. And it's the kind of one that many call as depressive and they don't really want to read or listen to. What's very interesting, I noticed, is that many of the pop stars, like the Miley Cyruses and many others who become really successful in what they're doing, one of the things they do very successfully is they don't have any problem bringing out their dark side, their dark night of the soul, their deep grief, their woe, their pain, their heartache about that lost love, that broken love. I remember a Celine Dion song, Yesterday's Gone, and I know it's true. I know I'll never get over you. I mean, it just sounds so woeful. Or the Titanic, you know, my heart will go on. And yet people love that stuff. People sit there and watch dramas and Days of Our Lives and The Bold and the Beautiful, which I remember Grace's mum used to love to watch, and just shows of a lot of drama and pain and grief that people experience. So one of the things of the Psalms, it really gets you to own your shadows and really feel your shadows more than just about anything else. So, okay, so please keep it mindful. Alex, you keep unmuting yourself, so just be mindful of that, please. So, Lord God of my salvation, I've cried day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry. For my soul is full of trouble and my life draws near to the grave. I am counted with those who are going into the pit. I am as a man who has absolutely no strength. Free among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, whom you remember no more and are cut off from your hand. You have laid me in the lowest pit in the depths. Your wrath lies hard upon me. You've afflicted me with all of your waves. Salah. You put away my acquaintance far from me. You have made me an abomination to my friends and the people I know. I'm shut up and I cannot come forth. One of the things I will mention that when you enter the dark night of the soul, or really start that hero's journey and enter the belly of the whale, you kind of go into this place of ordeals where often you literally feel like you're separated from those around you on a really big level. And all these words you read here, like you've laid me in the lowest pit, in darkness, in the deeps, your wrath lies hard upon me. There is that tendency to be looking outside yourself, which is what this psalmist is doing here. He's really saying, look, this is just horrible. And, you know, why have you done this to me, God? Like, why is this happening to me? And in other psalms, you see him moving beyond that. But this is a good one of actually expressing the truth of how he's feeling, not trying to gloss over it, not trying to make up a story around it. So you feel like you've been separated from those that you love and you're separated from your close friends. That's what tends to happen. Especially I read on Facebook, like on everything from COVID vaccines to masking to all kinds of different stuff. You see the moment you go on a path, whether it's to move into a new form of investing or where you, in my case, where I moved into business when my family always encouraged me to have a secure job, all that kind of stuff starts to really change. So my eye mourns by reason of affliction. I've called daily upon you. I've stretched out my hands to you. Will you show wonders to the dead? Shall the dead arise and praise you? So your loving kindness be declared in the grave, or your faithfulness in destruction. So your wonders be known in the dark, and your righteousness in the land of forgetfulness. But to you have I cried, O Lord, in the morning my prayer prevents you. Why do you cast off my soul, Lord? Why do you hide your face from me? I'm afflicted, and I've been ready to die from my youth upwards. While I suffer your terrors, I'm distracted. Your fierce wrath goes over me, your terrors have cut me off. They came around about me daily like water, they compassed me about together. Lover and friend have you put far from me, and my acquaintance has gone into darkness. And in some translations say, lover and friend have been far from me, and the darkness is my closest friend. So when you really hit that moment, when you enter that time, and I'm sure everyone here listening right now has been through this at some stage, you've hit that point, you feel very separate from the people around you. You can feel very down about it, very low, very grieving, very challenged by the whole thing, not understanding why people can't see what you're seeing, because you're now seeing the world in a different place. And that certainly happens when you go on that hero's journey. You just go to a completely different place. And as you start to face your shadows and your deepest fears, which is what happens when you go on a hero's journey. The reason that we resist it in the first place is because something in us says, I'm going to have to deal with some stuff that scares me. That decision to go into a business or into an investing world living by faith when you've had a secure job, that can be a scary thing, because you know you're going to face your fear of not having enough, of scarcity, not being able to provide for your kids, not being able to provide for your family, of looking stupid in front of people that you know. That biggest fear of failure or being criticized or ending up making a big botch up of the whole thing and in your family saying, I told you so. So this psalm here is a really good one of if you're actually feeling in that moment of absolute kind of darkness, or you're just actually feeling like, you know what, I'm facing some pretty hard stuff right now and I'm not finding it easy to deal with at times. And I gloss over it to my friends, I'm glossing over it to the group. I even gloss over it when I'm speaking in intercession. I even gloss over it when I'm doing our spiritual groups. But deep down, I'm actually finding things really tough right now. And Sam says, it almost feels like everyone around me is speaking a completely different language. So, yeah, that's how you start to feel. You actually start to feel that, Sam. That's very common. You feel like you and other people are on a completely different page. So, anyone feel like that right now? Or, yeah, Steve's so basically bored by small talk. Yeah. Who is feeling like that? You're really isolated from people around you like never before. You're just noticing it. You feel a very deep sense. And sometimes you almost feel like, gosh, I just feel like I'm in a times it's just heavy because I just fed up being in a situation or feeling like this. Yeah, Sam, that's it, Steve. Yeah, exactly. Alex, like an alien. Steve, 100%. Yeah, you do. You can feel that absolute emptiness and desolation. And this really, in a way, this psalm gives you permission to feel desolation and feel absolute despair and feel that sense of cut-offness. And I will admit, I felt that for so much of my life. I mean, I read this psalm and I remember I was very uncomfortable reading psalms like this in my early spiritual walk. And even for many years, to me, this was depressive. To me, it expressed emotions and feelings I really did not want to admit were what I actually felt within myself. They scared me. So I really did everything to avoid it. But I can remember when I was 22, and I remember specifically learning to play piano just for the sole reason that I felt I could connect with people, and at least people would pay me some attention. I just felt very dead, very isolated, very, in a sense, disconnected from people around me. So Christine says, last night I realized I've hardly anything to do with the people I used to have a lot of contact with, and Steve's the same. Yeah, look, I know. You just don't want to hang out with the people anymore because you feel that disconnectedness. I remember going to church youth group and everyone would be playing music and smiling and laughing, or that's how I perceived it. And I felt absolutely empty and cut off. And I didn't always understand why I felt that way. I would try and make myself feel differently. And that's how we get into addictions. That's how we get into sexual addictions, drug addictions, money addictions, where we just spend like no tomorrow, just go berserk with our spending. You know, things that actually help us disconnect and stop feeling. Take some alcohol, get drugged, you know, basically try desperately to fit in with people that we know, because even though we don't feel much connection with them, it's better to have some connection than have absolutely no connection at all. So that's kind of what I feel today. This is one of the things of the hero's journey, is a bit of a gentle kind of reminder that the journey can actually take us into a very alone kind of a place. And as Christine says, I've retreated, and now I know why. So yes, you do start to retreat, because you realize that when you're around people who misunderstand you all the time and on a different journey, that if you try and express it to them, they will actually, you'll, even if they don't mock you on the surface and smile at you, you'll feel that inner judgment. You will feel them saying things to you, which just like, oh gosh, you know, why are you on that journey? Or why are you on that path so much? Or, you know, why would you be saying stuff like that? Or why would you not just go and take the COVID vaccine and get on a plane? Or why would you not just go and get a secure job if you got this financial challenge? Or whatever happens to be the case. Or why not go and join a social group in your local community and play lawn bowls or something? Whatever comes to you. So this psalm really gives you permission. And in fact, another one I felt to actually do as well was Psalm 22. Not all of this one, this is a very long one, but just extracts of this one. And if you read this one here, this was one which much of this was actually a prophecy of Jesus on the cross, and was actually quoted in the various Gospels as being fulfilled through Christ on the cross. So when you really read this, this is probably the biggest sense of what it can feel like on the dark night of the soul. Like, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me and from the words of my roaring? And funnily enough, the first thing I think of with this is Forrest Gump. And in the movie, when that Lieutenant Dan basically lost his leg in a landmine, and he was pretty upset and pretty depressed, and then one night lost his marbles at God, went into this darkness and absolutely yelled all night, and then woke up the next morning, made his peace with God, and started helping people. But yeah, why are you forsaking me? Why are you so far from helping me? So he's saying, I cry in the daytime, the time of prosperity, the time of abundance, the time when everything's going well for everyone else, but you're not hearing me. In the night season, even when it's dark and still it's silent. But as you can see, it's perplexion here, but you are holy. In other words, but I know, God, that you're fair, you're holy, you're pure, you're separated. So what I'm experiencing and going through, I can't really blame you for this, because I know that you're pure and holy. So why am I experiencing this, Father? So he said, fathers trusted in you. They trusted and you delivered them. They cried to you and were delivered. They trusted in you and were not confounded. In other words, our fathers, the ones I hear about, Charles Finney, Jonathan Edwards, the John Wesley, many of the great preachers, people that I know, they seem to be delivered. But look at me, I'm a worm and I'm no man, a reproach of man and despised of the people. I can remember feeling like that so much growing up. I remember being in school and getting bullied as a kid, and like incessantly feeling like I was despised, feeling like a reproach, feeling like people would just be laughing at me, having to go and kind of hide myself away as I saw it at that time. My family even mocking me, to the point where my cousins would even say, why do you let your sister and your mum speak to you like that? So feeling like I was a reproach of men, feeling like a worm, feeling like of a very low esteem, feeling too scared to even approach and talk to women when I was, for example, very young, and because of how I'd be received or not received. So it says, all that see me laugh me to scorn. And then you can see the same thing. You can see this conflict in this one constantly. And that's when he says, many bulls have compassed me about. Strong bulls have dashed and have beset me. Or verse 11, be not far from me, for trouble is near. There's none to help. Verse 11, I am poured out like water. My bones are out of joint. Verse 15 has brought me to the dust of death. Verse 16, for dogs have compassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me, they pierced my hands and my feet. I may tell all my bones, they look and stare upon me. They part my garments and cast lots upon my vesture. Be not far from me, O Lord, O my strength, hasten you to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword. So you can see him crying out from the depths of his soul, like Christ did on the cross. So the good thing about this psalm, or unlike Psalm 88, which ended pretty miserably, this particular one here, you see, as it goes on, he starts to lift himself up with his words. He says, I will declare your name unto my brethren. In the midst of the congregation will I praise you. And then he says, for he is not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted. Keep in mind that this was written in the same psalm at the same time. So basically, this wasn't because anything had changed in his circumstances. What had changed was his perspective on the whole event. And that's really important to get, that your perspective of the whole event changes. It changes everything around you, and eventually your physical reality has to catch up to it. And that is the biggest reason we go through the hero's journey, the dark night of the soul, the belly of the whale, and we go into these ordeals. It's more to change our inner perspective and transform it, because once our inner perspective transforms and changes, our outer perspective and our outer world will start to inevitably change, because that's a scientific law and a universal promise. So notice here that what David's now saying here. He says here that verse 27, all that enter the world shall remember and turn to the Lord. For the kingdom is the Lord's, he is a governor among the nations. All that be fat and well fed upon earth shall eat and worship. All that ever go down to the dust shall bow before him, none can keep alive his own soul. And so he's really speaking about a great work that's going to come out of it. And that's what I love about this psalm. He starts off in the absolute lowest place, like Christ did on the cross. But the result of Christ's dark night of the soul, up the cross, was a whole new seed that came upon the earth, a whole transformation of a whole people who now have been blessed with the Christ consciousness, who can access the portals and collapse space and time. So the beautiful thing about the dark night of the soul and the hero's journey and going into that deep pit where you become separated is a separation is a must. And that's what the warrior one in the ruin stone is particular. If we go back to the warriors one, the correct approach on the warrior one, and not basically the reversed one, which is what I got for the group today, is that this is about cutting things away. So this is about going deep. The warrior is a challenging one because it's calling you to go within. It's calling you to delve to the foundations. It's calling your character to transform, and it's calling you to cut off the old with the sword. And the warrior has the strength to basically impose death. In other words, cut away the dead and move on. So Jesus said very clearly, let the dead bury their own dead. That's what he told his disciples when they were having difficulty in letting go of things from parental matters, responsibilities to their parents. You will notice when you read the scriptures of Christ and even the Buddhic teachings and the Hindu teachings, all of them are very strict. That's one thing they have in common. They don't water down like the Western world has done today with creating some kind of religion that I have no idea what it really is anymore, and no one does. It's just some kind of weird anything goes religion. The original teachings of the ancients is very strict. It's a requirement of renunciation. It's a requirement to cut away the old. It's a requirement to cut away anything that basically no longer serves you in your life whatsoever. And the truth is, we're not very good at that as humans and as indigos. And that's why we have reincarnated many times, because we really aren't that good at cutting away things that don't serve us. So like what people were admitting before, sharing, just like in Psalm 88 and 22, feeling a deadness, feeling a disconnectedness from the people around you now, feeling like the people around you no longer bring you that life and vitality they used to. That friend you used to hang out with, it used to make you feel good to be around, suddenly you're like, they're so empty. Those family members that used to go along to their functions and kind of enjoy going along there and having a beer or doing what you do, and going, actually, I don't like this shit anymore. That's what starts to happen when you enter the hero's journey and you make the decision to follow the call. And this is where many people drop off from the call and drop off the hero's journey very early. So number one, it's hard enough to get you to commit in the first place, and you resist the call and refuse it because deep down you know you will face your deepest fears. And then when you finally step over the threshold, you end up actually facing your deepest fears. And Steve says, yes, that's it. Yes, it is. And then your very worst fears come to pass. Like, who's found that on the hero's journey already? Like, you kind of knew what you were going to get yourself in for, and then you walked the path, kind of hoping deep down that maybe it wouldn't be quite as bad as you made up in your head, and you find out it's every bit as bad as you made up in your head. And even worse. Sheldon, yep. I'm sure Steve's going, yep. Christine, yep, absolutely. And I'll put my hand up on that one, everyone. I mean, I was like, oh, far out, man. It's like, I knew it was going to cost me a lot. This is why Jesus said, unless you're willing to take up your cross and follow me, don't bother. Just don't. Just go and do whatever you're doing and come back and reincarnate and keep going through your lessons until you're ready. That's really what he was saying. Buddha and Krishna said the same thing. Krishna was very clear. Yeah, for me, what have I got myself into? Absolutely. That's why Jesus pretty much said to people, like one guy said, Lord, I will follow you wherever you go. He said, yeah, okay, well, foxes have dens, birds have nests, but I've got nowhere to lay my head. What about you? Are you willing to give up your need for financial security? Obviously, for that guy, that was a challenge. There was another guy who basically said to him, Lord, I'll follow you, but just let me go and discharge my family responsibilities first. And with my father, he goes, well, let the dead bury their own dead, but you come and follow me. In other words, let those who are spiritually dead and who are not living their path, let them do the job. But you, I'm calling you to follow me. What do you want to do? Do you want to reincarnate and go nowhere, or do you want to ascend and complete your path on this earth? Jesus told his disciples, unless you're willing to take up your cross and follow me, or in modern day English, face your deepest fear, take on the deepest thing that frightens you more than anything else in the world, take the sacrifice and be willing to serve like he did, forget about it. Because he's saying to them, guys, the reason that you're back here again is because you attached to the things of the earth and you put your own needs first and didn't follow the path, what you're here to do. This is where I've been getting led. And there's no question for me, I've realized more than ever, the path of service. I love serving in a way I've never done before. Every service and sacrifice is a joy, because I'm realizing now that in many of my past lives, the evil seeds of my karma, which have come to roost, were all to do with self-interest, all to do with financial swindling, all to do with putting myself first. And I'm so grateful I have an opportunity to put others and prosper others and help others move into greatness into their path. And in that way, I'm having a wonderful chance to outwork it and walk my own hero's journey and be a servant. And Buddha said the same. Krishna, if you read the Hindu teachings, they were very strict on the level of renunciation required. At one stage with Babaji, unless you walked away from society and lived in the mountains, they wouldn't accept you. But through Lahiri Mahasaya, they taught that you can live in the Western world, in a material world, but learn renunciation within that, even though it was harder. Dipa Ma, the Buddhist teacher, she successfully changed all of the Buddhist teachings from the strict renunciation by leaving into the mountains to teach you can do it as a mother raising a baby or as a woman going to work every day, but being mindful and learning to sacrifice and learning to serve. So the hero's journey above all else is about cutting these things away. And that's why the warning of today's Ruin Stone was we actually got the reversed, telling people not to look outside yourself, but to get on with serving and get on with that, because that's the best place you can be in. The final psalm which I had before we commence, like going a bit further with this, and all this is part of the message, of course, is Psalm 139. So Psalm 139. I'm not going to read the whole psalm, but this also shows you something amazing about the dark night of the soul. And that's why we had to finish, because as Steve Plummer will tell you, the best things always come in three. So, Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know my downright sitting and mine uprising. You understand my thoughts afar off. You compass my path. Verse 4, there's not a word in my tongue that you do not know. Verse 5, you have beset me behind and before and laid your hand on me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain to it. This is one of my psalms that used to make me weep as an early follower of Christ and the higher teachings, because I really see what he's saying here. Where shall I go from your spirit? Where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. But look at this. If I make my bed in Hades, in the underworld, in the realms of Hades, of hell, the underworld, the lower astral realms, even if I fall into that realm, still you are there with me. I can't escape you. And then verse 11, even if I say the darkness will cover me and I go into a Psalm 88 experience or the belly of the whale, even then the night shall be light about me. In verse 14, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows full well. So the dark night of the soul and the hero's journey, when you move into that darkness and you move into that inevitable place where you feel separated and cut off from everything around you, and if you haven't felt that, it means you haven't really experienced it yet, because Christ says that very clearly. He shows you, and all of the Buddhists and the Hindu and everything taught the process of that renunciation and that willingness to enter into that place. Realize that what it's doing is it's cutting off the extraneous things, the things that don't matter in your life. Who feels right now that's happening to you? That the extraneous things that don't really matter are being cut away from you. Because this is going to be life-changing for you and for society and for humanity. Yeah, a few of you are feeling it. Christine, Famita, Fiona, Sam, Sheldon, yep. Christ said, you are the light of the world, and a city on a hill cannot be hidden. Yogananda said with that scripture, he said that you are the light of the world. In other words, your people around you have no hope but for you. And that's not an ego thing, but they got no hope. If Albany Wagen have no hope in Denmark, but for Christine and Fiona. Canada, where Sheldon lives, has no hope but for Sheldon. Virginia has no hope but for what Lexi's doing. For Mita, Chicago has no hope. Miko down south has no hope. That's why Christ said, you are the light of the world. Indigos, people of God, have been sent to help humanity, especially in this time right now, where Earth is entering into a dark night. And when you ponder that responsibility, it can be sobering. You can even cry about it. I know Grace bawled her eyes out about this. I know I did too. But once you've gone through that pain, you actually realize it and you start to embrace the dark night. So on that, with all that said, let's just move forward into the next ones. So here we are again. If we go to the heavens, you are there. If I make my beds in the depths of Hades, you are there. It's the dark night of the soul. So really, it's always about a rebirth, like a butterfly and a caterpillar. So the purpose of the dark night of the soul is to actually experience that rebirth. So when you actually get that and really feel that rebirth and experience that rebirth, it really does change everything. You actually start to absolutely live that. You live that experience. You start to live that rebirth, and you start to actually embrace the dark night, because you start to realize one of the stages of Buddhic enlightenment is when you actually start to realize the importance of suffering and struggle. Because he said the very immature spiritual seeker tends to be addicted to pleasure. And as you go through each stage of enlightenment within your walk, you start to gradually remove that attachment. I can openly tell you that 20 years ago, I was absolutely addicted to pleasure. 10 years ago, I still was. 5 years ago, I was still, but not quite as much. 2 years ago, I still was, but less so. These days, I wouldn't say I've completely descended where I see all is no matter what, but I would say that by and large now, when I move into a darker place, I embrace it very quickly, because I realize it's an opportunity to rebirth, to grow, to shift and to transform. To the point now where I'm opening myself up to challenges and realizing that the more I take on the hard path and take up the cross, the easier life gets. So in a way, that's what I've done with the councils. I've just simply said, I'm taking up the cross and following. And the cross means to stick and be faithful to the work. Stick and be faithful to the call. Stick and be faithful, especially when it's difficult. So this is all about turning into that butterfly. And I loved it when Yvonne said 2 weeks ago, she couldn't believe this group. She hadn't been in a group like this. And I've seen the struggle that many of you have gone through. and no doubt are still going through, but realize that the world around you starts to see the fragrance of the presence of Christ and of the higher masters around you more and more as you start to live it. I've actually noticed a change in me, even in my Facebook debating. One of my favorite things was to shit stir and be quite vicious with people who troll me. I've noticed I've become kinder. I even laugh at them, and I let people do it to me. And it's quite interesting since I've been doing that, how often people then back off and stop and even smile and laugh with me. So more and more, you start to actually learn this, that people are watching you, and this whole experience of going into these cocoons or darkness is to come out and rebirth. So the hero's journey, so far what we've covered is generally where we're at right now is in the supreme ordeal in the earth, and many of you are in there right now through the various stages that you're in. And one way to do it is to resist it and do what humanity does and go and get drunk. And what's very interesting is that the call has been coming to humanity for years. People have resisted it through sex, through alcohol, through drugs, through anything, through smoking, through addiction to TV, addiction to Facebook. And more than ever today, we've got so many things that we can turn to as painkillers and addiction substances to get us through our pain. We can do what I used to do. You just go and watch TV all day. You can lie there and fantasize in your head. You can go and get drunk nonstop. You can just go through, have sex and go through relationship after relationship. You can go and just keep changing jobs. You can become a shopaholic and get into debt. There's so many things you can do today. But all you're really doing is running from God and running from the call and running from yourself. So when you actually start to face the truth and stop doing that, you will feel like it's a supreme ordeal, because now you've got to face the stuff you spent your whole life running from. The very reason that you went and got into that situation, you got married, you took that job on, and you kind of numbed yourself to it, kept everyone happy around you, kept paying the bills for everyone, how you kept on being the good family girl and turning up at family events and making sure that you were the faithful kind of daughter or faithful cousin or whatever you are, continuing to see your friends and talk to them kindly on Facebook, even though they really manipulate you, doing all this kind of stuff, having your alcohol constantly, and suddenly now you stop doing it. Suddenly you start setting a boundary. Whereas previously you kept your connection with your friends because you let them speak badly to you. One day you say, actually, I don't like it when you talk to me like that. And they say, well, you're being sensitive now, aren't you? You're like, well, I don't like it. That person says, fine, I won't spend time with you anymore. Or they don't say that to you, but you feel them pull back from you. The fears come up, the guilt. You feel so guilty, like, oh, shivers, was I too hard with them? Maybe I could have been softer. Maybe I just should have not said those kind of stuff. Maybe it would have been easier if I just, why'd I have to do that? I could have just backed off and not spoken to them. And that's what we do. We sit around running from things. Rather than confront that friend, we run around, we be nice, or we just cut them off and don't talk to them. And then when we finally start to live the hero's journey, we start to address these matters, and then people cut us off. So it is a challenging time. Who can relate to what I was just saying there, by the way? And that's exactly what you go through as you make the steps and changes in your life, because you can feel the changes in the energy and reaction of the people around you, and you know it's not always favorable. My guess is a few of you can relate to this. Alex, yep. Especially, it might even be your partner, might even be your friend. It might even be lovers. It may be someone. So whoever it is, it could be just your closest friends. So the biggest point is, as you go on the journey, so this is where now we're going into the belly of the whale and the road of trials. So you may remember that we started with the hero's journey and the safe place. And as Sam says, kids, absolutely, that can be scary too. So that was about the safe place. We then went into the call to adventure, the refusal. We went into the aid came to help you get started, spiritual help, the crossing the threshold, which we discussed last week, where you take that first step of faith. And now let's start to explore the belly of the whale and what that means. So who feels in a way that you're there now, or at least have been in recent times, where you've felt like you've been in a place where you've been locked away and you know you're in the right place, but it hasn't necessarily been easy because you feel cut off from people. I would put my hand up for that one. I've been in that one quite a lot in the last couple of years. Will anyone feel you there now? Yeah, Fiona, yep. Lexi had this thought today. Yeah, absolutely, Lexi, no question. And Sheldon, yep. No. You'll find a lot of us are in that place because this is a time of separation for your indigo protection, I'll emphasize, for your protection with all the changes happening in the earth and to get you ready so you can ascend with the earth. So 5 in numerology is a number of kind of chaos or changing things or shaking things up, like a cosmic dark night of the soul number. In the Pistis Sophia gospel, which we go through in our mystery school every Tuesdays, which a few of you are part of, you may remember that when we talked about the 5th repentance of Pistis Sophia, of the fallen feminine energy, that the Psalm 88 was the 5th one. So the belly of the whale, according to Joseph Campbell, represents the final separation from the hero's known world and self. So this is the moment when you say, gulp, I know this won't be easy, but I'm willing to undergo this metamorphosis. And for me, it was quite amusing watching Steve Plummer especially, because you could see Steve stepped into this, but there was no question that there was a gulp that came from Steve when he agreed to undergo metamorphosis and got involved in our group, and probably now looks back and thinks he's crazy, but no question there's been that turning into a butterfly. And the key to realize is that in the metamorphosis, the struggle is critical, absolutely critical. And in the I Ching reading, for example, hexagram 49 is all about metamorphosis or revolution. And I've had that one a few times lately, because in the metamorphosis, the whole struggle is critical and essential for transformation and to get the strength for the path ahead. So it's like an incubation period, the fetus in the womb getting ready for birth. Years ago in church, a great preacher, Diane Smith, who Grace would certainly remember, her wonderful, wonderful speaker, preached the whole message in our Bible college, which I was part of, from Isaiah 49, just from the first 2 verses. But what she talked about was getting you prepared for the path basically ahead. So it was all about getting prepared for a path as a prophet or a path of greatness. And my sense is there's quite a few of you who know you're called to a big purpose. You are actually called to serve humanity in a big way, and you know it. And yes, probably at some stage there was a bit of an ego around it, but now you're like, the ego is well and truly disappearing fast because you realize the responsibility that this entails for you. But to Isaiah 49, verses 1 to 2. So in this particular one here, it says, the Lord has called me from the womb. In other words, from the incubation period, from the bowels of my mother has he made mention of my name. In other words, I have had a calling right from my inception, not just in this lifetime, but from the very creation when I was first made and I was first formed in the higher realms in my Adam Kadmon light body template. At that point, I was created for a massive work. I was created to go into galaxies, go into universes, go to planets like Earth, and actually be a light to those places to help sort out stuff. And he made my mouth like a sharp sword. In other words, he gave me a great elixir or a great gift. He gave me power. He gave me authority to speak out and go out as a prophet, to do the work, to be a businessman, to be a amazing conscious copywriter like a Steve Plummer, to use his mouth like a sharp sword to bring people into business or bring people into the work. Edward had a wonderful experience with the astrologer where he realized that he was showing one thing to help him financially is to use his copywriting skills for humanitarian work and to write campaigns for fundraising. And of course, I'm in the process right now of, we're talking about doing a lot more of that relief. So it was amazing timing. But to the mouth like a sharp sword, in the shadow of his hand, he's hidden me and made me a polished shaft. In his quiver, he has hidden me. Notice that twice there's talking about hiding you. So twice the Lord who's made you as a sharp sword, a sharp arrow, ready for war, but even after what seems to be that ready to war, he's hidden you. sometimes we can feel in this side, we sort of can be a very challenging time, because this is the moment we get given the gift. We feel the changes in us. We even know we can go out and make a difference. And yet you go out, you speak the truth, you do what seems to be the start of the work, and you hit a brick wall. People don't listen to you. Your friends around you not only don't listen to you, but oppose you. They mock you. You feel them in their heart. You even go and try and tell people, and no one actually listens to you. So it's like, what the heck's gone wrong? Sometimes it's actually as simple as right now in his quiver, he's hidden me, and he's done like Jonah, he's chucked you into the belly of a whale. So in other words, he's getting you ready. It's, as you'll hear shortly when I teach about the stages of consciousness, it's one thing to have an amazing gift, and a number of you here do. It's a whole different thing to have exemplary character, that gift will not cause other problems. And I'll say that again. It's one thing to have an amazing gift. It's another thing that your gift doesn't cause other consequences because you haven't refined your character. And if you don't know what I mean by that, let's have a look at demons and dark masters like Lucifer. Lucifer was an Ancient of Days, Elohim, higher level God, who basically got caught up with self-interest and went off on his own little journey because he didn't really want to bring the light back to the Father or Melchizedek. He preferred to keep it for himself and for all of his different angels and beings, stay within their own universe and run their own universe and say to the Father, I don't want this one to time with the other ones. I want my own little event happening here. And you can justify it. It sounds really good. It sounds like I'm just exercising a freedom. I'm just being autonomous. I'm just following my path. So in other words, dark masters and sorcerers, some of you in past life regressions have practiced black magic on big scales. And no doubt at the time you did it, you didn't do it because you woke up one day in that lifetime and go, oh, let's be evil. I'm just in the mood to be really evil and just do some black magic and get people. And, oh, let's just see if I can cast a spell on someone and turn them into a newt and ruin their life. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? There are people who do that kind of stuff. There are a few very dark masters, but by and large, I remember a shaman teaching me that probably about only 5% of people who do black magic and darkness on people actually don't realize fully what they're doing. He said there's about 5% who are very, very aware, but it generally starts with a good motive, and it can be as simple as, I know Lexi and I have had past life regressions, and Christine and some others about, great power and great black magic. And of course, at the time, it showed that certain things happened, but it was really just more at the time, some terrible things have been done to humanity by certain people. So it's like, well, let's just use some black magic and get them back. Let's just give them a taste of their own medicine. And it sounds justified, but you're just moving into the same duality chain that's happening. So to refine that character in this lifetime, all of us have made an agreement when we've come in. We've all made an agreement that this time round, we're going to get this right. And I don't know why I'm saying all this, but it's like a download I'm getting. I feel that everyone here today, or at least most of us, are like some kind of soul group, and we've made some kind of agreement that this lifetime, we are going to let ourselves come under a restraint and come under certain restrictions that we don't make the same mistakes, because this time we want to get it right. And we want to either ascend in this lifetime, or at least we want to make sure that we move to a better planet or realm after we pass on, or that at most will come back, as the Buddhists teach, and be a once returner, which means have maybe one more return. But to do that, we knew would require a very major renunciation, major work, and we all knew our tendencies. We all knew that we would get caught up in our lower nature very easily, because every other lifetime, when we're in the fifth dimension, in the portals, waiting to come back onto the earth from the resting place, from the astral realm, to come back and incarnate, there was kind of like, in that moment when we felt heightened, like, yep, we're going to be fine when we get back. This time round, we'll do it right because we've learned our lessons. But we forget that as we come back into the earth, we forget everything, because we come in and we create the template and we don't remember our past lives, not until we have them opened up for us. So we have this kind of forgetfulness that happens. So instinctively, we reconnect with the karmic people from our other lifetimes. The same things we did in other lifetimes, we start naturally repeating the patterns. and we start falling into the same, sins or basically relapses. So if you think about it logically, how would you stop us doing that and be sitting there many, many years later in deep regret, mourning, as we're sitting there with the councils going like, why on earth? I can't believe it. I've done it again. I mean, this is 123rd lifetime now where I've done this thing. So this time round, we've all made an agreement. We've all agreed for certain restrictions and limitations to make sure that this time round we do the work. And this time round we help the world. And this time round we basically make progress and we ascend, or we get close enough to ascension where at the very least there's going to be one more lifetime or one higher planet, depending on where you're at and the willing of inner renunciation you're willing to make. Who can resonate with this? And who knows it now why you're being hidden and why you're having to go through half the stuff you're going through? Just got that really clearly. We're actually a big soul group. It's kind of blown me away. Lexi's like, wow, yeah, I'm actually blown away too, Lexi. I'm a little bit speechless. So yeah. Miko Soul's laughing at this. Yeah, I know. I'm like, shit. And what I've also been shown, and this is about owning your shadows, I'm having a bit of a chuckle and a gulp. And I wasn't going to share this, but I'm going to share this. I'm also being shown one of the big reasons I'm teaching is I've, in a way, been responsible in many of your lifetimes for letting you off track. Because I'm a good teacher, I'm naturally great at inspiring people. I can manipulate and swindle when I want to. And I can actually see in times past, I've led some of you astray and off track. I know Alex and I have had past life regressions where I led Alex into some swindling rackets and got him involved in some extortion things I was doing. So this time round, I know, yeah, Alex is slave master, yeah. So I've been told this time round, Warren, you're going to teach and you're going to follow through and you're going to do this properly. So I'm having a bit of a gulp and in a chuckle at my own sense of responsibility. And so this is what I'm getting told today. So this is why we've been attracted together. I think some of you are going to be getting some past life recollections even now as I'm speaking, I'm sharing, because I can feel that Akashic record hall opening up right now in the 8th chakra. So some of you would be getting stuff already. So yes, we did do some great work too, Alex. And that's the reason why overall we've come together quite smoothly, because generally most of us did our best, but in saying that, your best isn't good enough when it comes to ascension. It's what you actually complete and what we do. So just out of curiosity, is anyone here getting any past life, recollections or little just images flashing before you and like, oh yeah, I can kind of see now where this has happened before? My sense is that a couple of you may not be getting a clear vision, but you're getting senses. Yeah, for me, you're seeing it. I knew a couple of people were seeing it. We've been assembled to complete unfinished business. Yeah, we actually have been in a group before. I can see it. So Miko, yeah, it's happened before. So that's kind of why we keep getting pulled back. So yeah, it's exciting actually. So let's just keep going with it and see where it takes us. So this is a really good incubation period. So in this part here, it's where you start to really experience the setbacks. So where you start to often experience those initial setbacks. So basically, the hero may go into this place of darkness, and rather than conquering or conciliating the power of the threshold and doing what the hero thinks they're going to do, they get swallowed in the unknown and appear to have died. And my mum actually has said comments about me the last few years, and I know Grace says, she goes, has Warren died or something? It's like, because I just disappeared. And I just went into this whale, so to speak, and gone into a deep place of hibernation. So we see this, and Miko says, I literally just dodged a scammer. Yeah, well done, Miko. That's great. So the hero may go into this place. So Jonah chapter 2, for example. Interesting that Isaac's now turned up, Isaac Flores. So, hey, Isaac. So we've just been talking about soul groups, Isaac. So yeah, so Isaac, hi, mate, we've just been talking about soul groups. Now we've all come together as a soul group to complete some stuff. So who knows? You must be part of that soul group. So Jonah chapter 2 is all about Jonah, who basically was called to go on the hero's journey into Nineveh and speak to a very, very naughty city that was known for its wickedness and oppression, but did horrible vaccinations to people, basically made people to wear masks all the time. I mean, I'm obviously embellishing it, but you get my idea. Who would just burn rainforests because they wanted to put up a new development. They didn't even think twice about it. They made money, and the higher artificial intelligence is the main way of going. They would brutally lock people in concentration camps who didn't comply with the laws of the land. And Jonah's being told, Jonah, your hero's journey is you're going to go and tell these people to repent, stop what they're doing, and that because you're going to be killed within 40 days. And if you don't, and Jonah's like, have you lost your effing mind? I am not doing that. And at least with Jonah, he was honest. He ran away as fast as he could and jumped onto a boat and just went the opposite direction of Nineveh. And I don't know if anyone else has done it. I know Grace openly said when she was first shown, she was called to be a prophet and given the book of Ezekiel, she immediately shut the Bible, stopped reading it, and said, if I don't read the Bible and don't learn any of this stuff, then I can't be made responsible for what I don't know. So Grace made me laugh because she actually was very honest about her refusal of the call. There was no hiding it for Grace. She just said, nah, if I'm going to be accountable for all the knowledge I know, if I don't know anything, I can't be made accountable. So Grace was clever. She thought she'd got her way out of the hero's journey, but then the Father had his way of getting her into the belly of a whale. I know myself, I did the same thing. When it got really hard for me, I just decided, well, I'll just go and make as much money as I can in my business. I'll throw myself completely into my law, into everything like that. I'll build all these great companies, and basically the churches and the house of God can go fuck itself. And I actually said that to myself. They can all go and get screwed. You know, this is just a horrible journey. I don't like this. And of course, again, I had my way of coming back to my whale in the belly. So as Grace said, it didn't work. Nope. And I'm sure there's a few others of you who've done the same. Like, who here has openly rejected the call? Not kind of done it by default where you kind of pull back. Is there anyone else here, apart from Grace, that openly said, nah, ain't doing it? For a time when you just went and did the exact opposite, deliberately. Or we're the only two like that. Isaac, yeah. Yeah, I think Hamiko was running away my whole life, yeah. Yeah, Sheldon, yeah, they just openly do it, like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I will admit, even when the Council of Nine first appeared to me almost 3 years ago now, I actually argued with them for an hour, telling them why I didn't want to do it and why I didn't think I should have to do it. So, Lexi knew I couldn't say no. Yeah, you kind of said no, you didn't. So you got into it, and then another part of you just scuttled around like a ferret. So as I tell Lexi, she's one of the all-time great ferrets. So let's do it as she. So yeah, Lexi didn't like the being reined in part. So Jonah basically ended up in the belly of a whale. And it's very interesting when you read that story, or you read the activation of Jonah, because Jonah did eventually get out of the belly of the whale. But what's interesting is what got him out. So if you actually go to Jonah chapter 2, he was in the belly of the whale, but he realized what he had done. So notice what he did. He prayed to the Lord out of the fish's belly. And if you read the whole thing, he actually took ownership. He cried by his affliction. Out of the belly of hell, you heard my voice. And he goes through the whole thing and he says, when my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came before you to your own temple. And they would observe lying vanities take their own mercy. So he openly admitted his transgression. He said, those that get caught up in vanities, who get caught up with their own little agendas, that want to do their own thing, they miss out on the mercy that God can give them. But I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. In other words, this is a powerful statement to move through the belly of the whale, everyone, in the hero's journey. in the middle of what seemed to be a very difficult situation, he sacrificed. In other words, I think it's fair to say that when you're in the belly of a whale, where you see food coming down the throat and everything like that, that sacrificing and actually praising God and saying, thank you for this wonderful experience of putting me in a whale would not be the easiest natural way that we would go about it. A natural thing would go, this bloody whale, like, oh, get rid of this thing, just put this away. Or like these vaccinations around me, or this mask, this is horrible. But actually praising and saying, thank you for these situations because I can see my karmic part, I own it, and I just humble myself before you. And this is what Jonah is saying here. He sacrificed with a voice of thanksgiving. There was a brilliant preacher called Merlin Caruthers who years ago was getting extraordinary results for people in healing and release by actually teaching them in his church just to simply give thanks. People would have their wives walk out on them and he'd say, just give thanks to God. And he goes, why would I give thanks to God? I've lost my love. He'd say, well, give thanks to God because God knows better. Just give thanks for the situation. Know it's going to work out for good and keep proclaiming that over your life. And he was seeing extraordinary results of people. People were seeing reconciliation of what were seemingly broken relationships. They were seeing financial releases, miracles of all kinds of stuff. So Jonah makes three powerful statements. I will sacrifice unto you with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay what I have vowed. In other words, I will make my karmic debt right. And some of you here today, you've made vows in your heart in times past. And that came from your heart, and it was a karmic reason whether you knew it at the time. The vow might have been, I will do this path. I will work for ascension. Or I will do this for the community. I will give you daily prayer. Or I will meditate 30 minutes every day. I will do this as my life's journey or work. And every vow that you make is heard and kept account. The Freemasons know that. That's why we have to do vow clearing. So Jonah says, I will repay my karmic debts. I will make these right. Salvation is of the Lord. It's not of me getting on a boat and running around doing my own thing. Salvation comes from being reined in and following my path and doing it faithfully. The moment he said these three things, the Lord spoke to the fish and it vomited Jonah upon the dry land because the lesson was finished. So realize the dark night of the soul and the belly of the whale, it can go for a time, but it can be short. I found that my belly in the whale experiences have got shorter and shorter as the years go on now. Because when I'm in these experiences now, I still have that tendency in the beginning to resist, but I tend to much more quickly now do what Jonah said here. When I was going through the last few months ago, when I was really going through a bit of another time, I just said that to myself. I will sacrifice to you. I will give thanks for this. I can see that this is a karmic debt. I could see that my foot injury that wasn't healing was actually a karmic debt from slavery stuff in past lives in America, which I hadn't actually dealt with. I realized after seeing Peter the astrologer, but I had karmic debts to pay. I realized that I've got humanitarian work to do in many countries, that I've got where my maps showed some terrible karma. And I realized I've got some debts to pay. That's why in our intercession group now, we've been specifically targeting places. And we're going to be doing that more, and different people in the group will get led to different places because we're going to get busy making these karmic debts right. Because that's all you have to do to erase karma is learn the lesson and basically take steps to make amends. So really, the dark night of the soul is about character, but also sorting out karmic debt and coming to that point when you actually realize that nothing in my life that's happening isn't deserved. Nothing. Nothing is deserved. One thing I will share with you now, which I don't think I've shared publicly in a webinar before, and a couple of people in my life know about this because they were there when it happened, but I'm very aware why they're talking about mandatory vaccination or even the vaccination they're doing. That's why I'm very sober about that topic. I was taken into a past life regression for the planet 2 years ago, and for many days I was seeing it and I was in shock. I saw that many years at that time, there was human experiments done with vaccination en masse. And I saw how many people in our group and on this planet are all part of that. And I was told that. And I said, and I was clearly told that karma has not yet been fixed. And I was really troubled by that for quite a while because it was clear. I saw that it happened across parts of the Western world. It was horrible what I saw. And people had been died, people had become deformed, shocking things had happened to people, and the whole thing was brushed under the carpet and was written away. And I even saw certain people that I knew was part of that experiment, and they were right involved in the middle of it. I saw one of them actually wearing a cloak as a doctor, and he's not a doctor in his lifetime. And then, of course, 2 years later, this guy happens to be in one of the worst parts of Australia where everything's going on, where he's lost so much freedoms and been cracked down on. And it makes me sober, because when I see people hitting and hammering and doing all that kind of stuff, there's two reasons why you could be doing it. One is a good reason. It's the reason, like, you know what? I own the fact that this is justified what's happening in the world, but I'm going to ask for mercy, and I am going to work hard this time round to do the correct thing and speak out against this. Because whatever happened in past lifetimes, I didn't speak out about these things. This lifetime, I'm going to speak out about it. That's one motivation, and that can be a good motivation. But for many people, railing and saying, how dare you do this to us, haven't really learnt the karmic lessons. Yeah, Lexi, you remember me saying this? Yeah, no, I do. It kind of makes me sober when I think about it even now, Lexi, because I see it. And I know until the karma is addressed, this is not going away. Until this is addressed karmically, it's not going away from Earth, and it's going to actually escalate. And that's why the only way we can do it is do what Jonah said here. Throw our souls upon the Lord and actually say, you know what? Everything that's happening, the belly of the whale happening, is to wake up humanity to our karmic responsibilities and to stop doing this shit. So we just give thanks to you. The best thing you could do is give thanks. Thank you for what's happening. Even though I don't understand it, thank you. But you've taken steps to do this. Thank you that you stopped me running around. That's why people said to me, how do you feel about not traveling? I said, haven't lost a moment's peace about it, because I just said in the beginning, you know what? You stopped us traveling to wake us up and stop us running around, doing all these different things, doing bikini shoots, going out and having time of our life to get us back to our fucking priorities. That was what I said to myself. So I'm going to listen. I'm not going to resist this. I made that decision a year ago. I'm not resisting this. I'm going to listen, because the door will open again to travel. I just know it. I know that as soon as the time's right for me to travel again, I'll be on planes, and I'll be probably traveling on better planes in better things than I've ever done before. But right now, this is about priorities. This is about path. This is about sorting out karma and getting things cleaned up. So the best thing that we can do right now is to pray, to shift the karma and do energy work on every place. That's why we go and do the Knights of the Holy Cross. That's why we do this stuff. So there's a real reason we go into the belly of the fish, is to get us back to, like Jonah, where we go back to Nineveh and do what we're called to do, and just do it. And don't resist the work. And that we actually say, let's help humanity. Yes, if we're called to speak out, I will speak out. And the way you'll know is this: if you're the kind of person who's terrified to speak out, but you feel this call, but you're scared, a good chance that the Holy Spirit is leading you as part of your karma, because in past lifetimes you didn't speak out and you let this stuff go on around about you. For some people who are doing it out of pure anger and running around ranting on Facebook or ranting to everyone around you, your path may be the opposite. It's to be still, to trust, and just to serve in the background and help people and do energy work behind the scenes. And each one will have their own different message or different way of addressing this matter. I know for me, my partner, all I was told was to help people's consciousness. That was my job. Help their consciousness. Get busy with helping people raise their consciousness. Make that the work. If you can shift the energy, I mean, I've been amazed. Like every city that we've gone and done energy work and helped clear the karma, we've just seen haven't had anywhere near the experiences other cities have. Even the other week, Max, who's a member of his group here, went to Brisbane. He got led to go and clear the karma around all the monuments and all around the obelisks. And I think around that same time, they dropped the restrictions in Brisbane. So we really can, as Raymond Grace said, do a random act of kindness every day. That's his policy. He taught everyone in our workshop, do a random act of kindness every day. Do something for the planet or for someone who doesn't necessarily deserve it, but just do it just because you choose to do good. So Jonah here learnt this lesson. And this time round, he went to Nineveh and he spoke to the king. And the result of that was actually, to his surprise, the king actually listened to him and immediately repented of what they were doing. They stopped vaccinating their people by force. They stopped putting masks upon people. They instantly changed all the laws and gave people back their freedoms. So judgment never happened. And if you actually read the rest of the story, it's quite funny, because Jonah was very upset that they weren't actually destroyed, because he said, well, now I look stupid, don't I? I've gone to the king and told him that they were going to get judged, and now none of that's happened. I look like an absolute idiot now. So the power that we've got to change the reality on this planet cannot be underestimated. It really can't be. And we can see this, like I said, with Jonah, the belly of the whale. You see it also with Jacob and with Joseph. Jacob was, when he was called to the hero's journey and was given a birthright where he was promised great prosperity, his reward for it was he ended up being chased by his brother who tried to kill him. And he had to flee and spent 20 years in the wilderness, like Simba in The Lion King, where he was hidden away from Scar. So Jacob was kind of like Simba, trying to get away from Scar, his brother Esau. In Genesis 37, Joseph was told very clearly, you will be a leader in the world, you will save many lives, you're going to become a great prophet in the land of the lion, the land of Egypt, you're going to prosper and you're going to be a ruler. Jonah was so excited, Joseph was so excited, he went and told everyone about it. His reward for it was his brothers, his close friends, got him, threw him into a pit, and then sold him into slavery into Egypt, and he spent 10 years in prison for a crime that he never did. Now, if any of you ever went through that, I think we'd all say it's fair to say it would be hard not to become bitter. And when you read the account of Joseph, in fact, he was for a long time. He was very bitter. And then he had a point in his life, in his journey, where he actually realized the hand of God upon his life. And he realized that. And then by the time, years later, he actually met his brothers, he'd been taken out of prison miraculously. Overnight, he became the ruler of Egypt and went from being a man in the lowest dungeon in the belly of a whale to where he became the leader and ruler in the land of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. And his brothers, when they turned up to him many years later, when there was a world famine, and they were the only country that has survived the famine because God had given him direct instructions about the famine and told him how to preserve it. But Joseph said, what you guys meant for evil, God meant for good. Amazing statement. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. And he said, I love you, my brothers. And he wept and threw his arms around them, the very guys that had imprisoned him and been responsible for his suffering. So he would have been aware of his past life karma by that time. He would have learned some things in Egypt. He would have realized that there was karma with his brothers where he clearly did similar things to them. I had a horrible past life experience even just about 2 weeks ago when with my mum, who I've had many challenges with, I was clearly shown that in the past life I made her a slave, and not a very nice slave. I locked her up regularly in a dungeon when she misbehaved. And that was a bit of a shock for me. I thought, shit, because I've been realized that that's in a way what she'd done with me many times as well in this lifetime. So that was a big karmic cleansing. Since that point, I've been softer with my mum. We've been getting on really, really well. So the belly of the whale is a time when you actually let go. You swallow into the unknown. You do what Jesus said when Jesus actually said, come and follow me. Let go of everything. So who can relate to all of that, or who's getting some really deep insight now? You can actually see in your life already how you can take a whole different approach or way of being to things going on in your life right now. You can see the benefits and see the real blessings of what's happening in your life right now. Sam, this is great. Yeah, it's great, isn't it, Sam? It changes your whole perspective, doesn't it? I used to love what Jim Rohn, the motivational speaker, would say. He always say, God, don't make it easier, make me stronger. That was what he always would say. He used to encourage people to say, God, don't make it easier, make me stronger. So yeah, for me and Christina feeling the change of perspective. Yeah, so just always pray that, be stronger. So I'm praying right now with the world, don't make it easier, make me stronger. The truth is, as I told someone the other day who said to me, I just wish the world would go back to how it used to be. I said, do you really? Did you really like the world 2 years ago? And they stopped. They said, probably not. I said, exactly. I said, I hated it. I said, I can handle it better now because at least everyone's being truthful now. The government are openly telling us they defraud elections and they want to take your freedoms and lock you in camps and mask you. 2 years ago, we all said that's what they wanted to do, but we couldn't prove it. Now it's very clear that's what they're doing. I said, I find the world easier to deal with. That's my perspective. So the road of trials are really just tests that actually help you do the transformation. So this is a last part of the hero's journey I'm speaking of today. So the road of trials is really to test how serious you are. Now, I'll give you a good analogy. Let's just say that you have someone turn up in your life who wants to be your partner, like whether it's a business partner or a love partner or a relationship partner. Are you going to put them through a test to make sure that they're worthy for that part and that they're going to be faithful with you? Who openly admits, yes, you will test someone in some way, you will put them through a test? Who here would test someone, whether it's a business partnership or relationship, to see if you got what it takes? Miko, Sheldon. Women, they've actually proven. I remember doing a dating tantra course years ago, and they actually said, they showed in psychology, the average woman puts a man through 10 tests on average, and they listed the tests. I can't remember them all, but on average 10 tests before she'll open fully with him, whether it's emotionally, sexually, or anything. On average 10 tests. I know one of the tests was the wimp test, that the guy has the ability to stand up to her and put her in her place. Because women deep down love it when a guy can be strong and tell them when they're across the line. There was 10 different tests that they got put that a woman would put through before she'd open her heart to a guy. And most guys fail by the second test. That's what they were showing. So the point is, in business, I know I'm very, very strict. I put my business partner with WealthSafe VR, I must have put her through 20 tests. Grace will openly tell you that when we got together, she put me through so many tests, it was crazy. And she told me later on, yeah, well, I had so many guys, do stuff with me and not stick around with me. So women tend to understand this very well, I find. Men, we understand it more from a business perspective, that if you're going to go into business with someone, or you're going to do a financial deal with someone and pay someone a high salary in your company, and Alex Mesick, for example, you'd probably relate to this, or Steve Plummer, you wouldn't want to be paying, say, 100 grand to someone a year unless you had put them through a number of tests and you knew they were going to get you the results that would make it really worth doing it. So the road of trials is really the path to see if you're serious and got what it takes. It's one thing to say, I'm going to be a great prophet to serve humanity. I'm going to help humanity ascend. I'm going to build an amazing healing work to heal people. Anyone can say that. Anyone can even do that for a time. But can you stick with the course? That's the critical thing. No one wants someone. Let's just say, for example, that you contracted a building company to build your house. And then halfway through the building, they just said to you, look, this is like really hard building your house. And we're going to stop doing it, and just stop doing it, or just stop turning up one day. And they left you no plans, no nothing. I'm sure you'd be royally pissed about it. And I know people it's happened to. And then when you finally get onto them, they very guiltily say, well, yeah, I didn't realize how much it would cost to build your house. You'd be like, well, didn't you do any budgets? Well, no, not really. We just did it. We just had a guess. But surely you must know what you're doing in terms of building a house. How much it's going to cost you? Well, not really. It was our first one we've ever built. We didn't look into it. I'm sure you would be absolutely royally annoyed. And so, because the point is, you'd be saying, for goodness sake, you should have at least done some kind of cost budget analysis and worked out if you could do this before starting this journey, because you've now inconvenienced my life and messed around my house. So equally, why would the masters trust you in a big responsibility to do a work for them until they know you're ready for the path? Because they know otherwise people will get hurt. You will repeat your past life seeds of karma. They will germinate into the physical. And as Shaman Alberto Villoldo says in his book, Healer, Shaman, Sage, he says, we carry the past life wounds and imprints through us, which will continue to manifest in the physical until they're actually cleared. So he says in the same words what we say in our auric clearing course, that until the past life imprints and karmic imprints are cleared from your life, they will continue to manifest over and over again. That's why you go through the road of trials. So frequently the hero fails in these tests and generally gets another chance and then comes back to it and eventually overcomes. A bit like playing a video game if you're a gamer. You play a level, you hit level 3, you keep going, hitting it, eventually you overcome it, then you hit level 4, you race to level 5, and then you have more challenges. So this is about preparing you for the journey. This is the stage where the skills and powers are tested and obstacles thrown. Eventually the hero overcomes and moves to the next step. And this is why James says, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. And let patience have its perfect work, but you be made perfect or mature and complete, lacking nothing. So James, one of the great masters, his advice to you, if you say, I'm really going through a hard time, is count it all joy. So Steve Plummer says, gosh, this is hard. He'd say, Steve, count it joy, mate. You should be dancing nude around the house with undies and celebrating. You should be running around excited and saying, thank you so much for I'm counted worthy to go through this stuff. And same with Christine. When Grace is up and Fiona, when you're getting hammered in on the Friday portal with Grace and he's going, oh, we count this all joy. This is so good. We love it. I know Grace counts all of her trials all joy. It's not always easy to say it or feel it. He would find that really hard to actually count their trials all joy. Because by the way, this is the fourth stage of nirvana in the Buddhic teaching to get to this stage. Grace, it sucks but good. Steve, it's horrible in truth. Sam loves Fridays. Yeah, absolutely. That's it, Sam. Well, you must be starting to move into those higher Buddhic stages because they say, you know, when you've passed the Buddhic stage of enlightenment, when you truly entered nirvana, because your trials, you just laugh about it and enjoy it and just go along with it. Lexi can't help laughing about it. Yeah, exactly. I'm the same. Sam, bring it on. Alex, after the event, yes, it sucks while it's happening. For me, I'm getting used to it. Yeah, you actually can train your mind very quickly. Actually celebrate when it's happening. Like, for example, I'm just finding more and more now, I just do that. And as soon as I feel I'm having a challenge in my life, I just say, what am I still meant to learn in this situation? And I start changing my consciousness by what I speak about myself. I start giving thanks for it. I start saying, I thank you that this has happened because I'm meant to be seeing a different perspective. I remember one of the ways that, you know, I actually trained myself in dealing with my fear of rejection and abandonment with the feminine, along with many other things in healing I did. When I would feel the abandonment and I'd feel the frightenedness that would hit me or the pain, I would start giving thanks for it. And I would say, thank you for this sense of abandonment. Thank you that I'm being detached from, because this is teaching me more detachment. This is helping me to get stronger. This is helping me to detach better. I would start owning where I detach from the feminine. And then before I knew it, I'd be like, actually, yeah, it's okay. I'm cool with it. And then generally that the feminine energy would reconnect with me again. So this is a powerful truth that you're learning today, everyone, to actually count it all joy, because it changes your perspective. You start to look at the good things about it. Like if your business is having challenges and cash flow is really dropping, that's a great opportunity for you to change your way of thinking. Yeah, you could go out and get a job, or you could go out and frantic and just go insane and be ringing up everyone for 80 hours until you drop with nervous exhaustion, or you can go, wonderful. This is really challenging where I'm at cash flow right now. This is a good chance for me to really learn a new way of being. How can I learn a new way of being to actually bring even more cash flow into my business and into my life while doing what I love doing? Thank you, God. Thank you, higher self. Thank you, universe, that you've allowed me to be challenged. Thank you that you haven't left me making a comfortable income in my normal job so that I get lazy and complacent and don't grow into greater success. Jesus said that in John 15, where he says, I am the vine, you are the branches, and the Father prunes bushes to get more fruit. If you actually read it. So imagine if you stopped pruning your rose bushes because you didn't want to lose the beautiful roses. They would die in winter anyway. So the gardener prunes the rose bushes to get even better roses next season. So likewise, as Samita says, I realize I have control over how I perceive and respond. Yeah, and Viktor Frankl, who was in a concentration camp in Auschwitz in the 1940s, he actually realized that one thing that the Germans couldn't do was take away his joy and take control of his mind. So he started counting it all joy and giving thanks for being in a concentration camp, being tortured in gas chambers. Within a matter of days, he changed so much in his joy and peace that he started becoming the counselor and comforter for all of the other prisoners in there. Before he knew it, even the guards started coming to him to get advice in their situations. When he was released, he became one of the great motivational speakers of the world because he counted it all joy. He learned how to change his perspective in very difficult situations. So if you're having financial challenges, give thanks today, because it means you're getting an opportunity to change the way you're thinking. You're learning how to make money in a creative, more better way, serving even better than you have today. If you're having relationship or connection challenges, count it joy. Think, great, I'm learning to let go, detach, and to go deeper in my connection, to have pure connection with friends, with people, or with a lover, rather than having some kind of lower connection, like a lower chakra or lower energy connection, but actually not fulfilling. And it's really a great chance. When you've got a health challenge, in Alberto Villoldo's Healer, Shaman, Sage, he says the ancient wisdom always used to say that an illness was a great opportunity to move into greater health than you've ever had before. No doubt Christine Evans, when she had a big health challenge years ago, the result of that is now she's even in better health than she's been before. I'm getting better in my health all the time, because when I have a health challenge, like when I injured my foot, and where for many months it continued, and I'm still finalizing my rehab, I'm seeing it as a great chance to have the best feet strength and get my feet in the best shape it's ever been in. So trials are meant to help us expand and grow and transform. That's the purpose of a trial. So the hero's journey, these are part of getting stronger. In basketball, they know this. That's how they get stronger as a team. They get stronger by doing their work. So count it all joy. So one of the things I feel to do today now is I'm going to actually cover the rest of this next week, I feel. I'm just going to do this last slide today, or last couple of slides, and then I'm going to leave this and continue this next week, because the other part of the road of trials is actually understanding the states of consciousness. Because one of the reasons that that's really important is that also helps you to understand the role of trials. But I will finish off by just going through this particular slide. And then after that, I will end this, and we're going to do a clearing. We're going to do an exercise. And then I'm going to finish off by sharing something quite exciting about a new program we're looking at doing. So Ken Wilber, in his Religion of Tomorrow, what he puts it really beautifully, which can help you understand, because this is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Just because you expand in state or consciousness, in other words, you acquire the city powers or abilities to do magic, to do spiritual warfare, to shift energy in situations, to enter cosmic portals, to go into higher realms, to do great work upon people. That's a very different thing to your character structure. So a very good example of a dark master is someone with an amazing ability to enter city powers, but who've got shadows and deformities in their character structure. So if you wish to become a dark master and end up going that path, then I would recommend that you don't develop your character and put all your emphasis on stable consciousness. Seeing as I'm presuming that no one here wishes to become a dark master, and you'd be going to other webinars to learn that, then it's very important that as you're developing your city powers, that you're developing your character structure. Now, if you're asking what do I mean by city power, I will just take you to the exact definition that's actually online on this. So here we are. So the cities are material, paranormal, supernatural, or otherwise magical powers, abilities, and attainments that are the products of yogic advancements through sadhanas such as meditation and yoga. So, for example, Jesus had immense city powers. He was able to teleport, he was able to transmute. He was able to shift to other dimensions. He was able to turn invisible. He was able to levitate in the air. He was able to make food miraculously manifest. So all these city powers are very possible to attain and are actually contained in the halls of Amenti, which is around about I think around the 7th or 8th dimension. So you can actually access these powers. And I've been getting access to some of them, and I've got all of them now, and I'm just learning to apply these powers in my day-to-day life. So you can actually do this, the powers to walk through walls, the powers to actually bilocate, the powers to actually walk on water. So all that is what's called a city power. So these are skills you can develop and learn, or develop skills and be granted. But one of the things we're finding now more and more is that if you want city powers, the masters won't give them to you until they're satisfied that you've developed your character structure and learnt spiritual maturity. So generally, you must learn to master higher states in equal balance with developing character. So to give you a sneak preview for next week on this, Ken Wilber actually talks about the fact that you've got 5 states you can access, and you've got 3 tiers of structure growth, or actually 12 levels in total of character growth you can go to. And it's the most fascinating study because you will actually see what's going on in the world. You will see the humanitarian, or the shift that's happening right now in the world, from a level 5 tier 1 to a level 6 tier 1, which is moving away from corporate achievement and wealth as a consciousness state into a more humanitarian social responsibility change. So, and each individual can go through that, for example. So you can enter into a bit of one. So just out of interest, I'm going to do a bit of an exercise. Does everyone want me to go through this more next week, or do you want a quick summary of the states and levels now, just for a few minutes before we move into clearing? I'm conscious I've actually spoken quite deep today. I'll just go by a bit of a majority vote in the chat. So just type keep going if you want it to just go for another 5 minutes and share this a bit more, or stop now and get on to clearing. So I'm mindful of where people are at. Sam wants me to share a little bit. Yep, okay, so both. Okay, what about anyone else? Just want to make sure, not overwhelming people today. Christine, next week I think it's very deep. Steve clearing, so it's a bit of a mix. Okay, so it seems to be mixed. So I'm going to go with the next week and just hold back and just simply say for now, just to summarize this, that the 5 levels of states are, in simple terms, the highest level is where you move into that higher oneness or consciousness. And some of you I know have experienced that. So next week we will really cover this, because this is going to be amazing. The worst place you could ever be in is be in the highest level of states and have a very low character. And that's a dark master who can move into witness or non-dual suchness very easy, but who don't really grow their character. So anyway, we're going to cover that more next week, because that's pretty heavy stuff. And what we're going to do now is go straight to the exercise, because it seems that people just need a little bit of, we'll cover this next week. So really what I want to do today, before we do the clearing, is just do an exercise. And then I'm going to mention about a chakra alignment course that we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks or so. So I'll just mention that briefly more, where we're actually going to be doing a test run of our chakra alignment to actually go through the first 9 chakras one by one, learn about what they are and how to actually clear them, because that will really help in shadow work and in integration. So who would be interested in something like that in principle anyway? A chakra alignment, actually learn each chakra from 1 to 9 and how to actually clear them, and actually how to manage them and keep them maintained at a higher frequency. Yeah, it's just something I've realized that people don't actually know, and it's so important, understanding your chakras. Yeah, it seems everyone's pretty keen. I was given a message that people are very keen. So yep, now I have a feeling it'll be a hit. So what I want you to do is just to write down where you're at, okay, with this. And what I mean by that is, where do you feel you're at in your journey, and what perspectives can you change today? So what's your greatest lessons? Really just write up to 3 things if you just got one thing which you're going to change or you've really learned from the day. So your greatest learning and your greatest change you're going to make from this one. So for me, it's a reminder that I'm just going to simply really keep my perspective very, see everything from the higher perspective and always be thankful in all situations, because I haven't always done that lately. So that's a reminder for me to be thankful in all situations, especially in a couple of little challenges I'm experiencing right now around business and something else. So like, for example, in business, I had a real challenge getting good management. I'm now finally realizing it's a great chance for me to exercise more responsibility. So. So just write it down. Just take a couple of minutes before we go and do the clearing. Oh, it's 12:12 now. Woohoo, Ascension. Okay, so Fiona. Okay, so Fiona, concentrate on being conscious during the days, keep working the inner me. Lexi, mostly that I realize and should honor that I'm more on path than ever and I can always refine what I'm doing. And keep going inward more into soul resonance. I like that. For me, I've been feeling stuck, but now I realize I'm where I'm supposed to be at this time and realize how far I have come in getting to this point. I like that. Yeah, that's awesome. So love the challenge, Alex. Look for the lesson, feel the pain and own the darkness. Be grateful of cocoon. 3, realize the past, karma, past and present by completing this journey of service. Yeah, absolutely. I was even talking to a friend of mine, who's going through a process where he's been caring for his wife a lot. through a time of sickness. Of course, we can both see the karmic path he's going through with her. Because sometimes what happens is that someone cares for you. So a lot, or in past life, so you were paying a debt. Christine, give thanks for the challenges. Continue going deep within myself. I can see that each time I break through, I can feel more of what it is I am. That's great. Sam, well, I'm on the right path and evolving further than perhaps I'd realized. And sometimes clients have an opportunity to serve, even if I felt they didn't deserve it. Yeah, absolutely. I get that sometimes, Sam. I've had situations with clients, I've just been led to really give a lot more to them than normal. And then when I tuned in, I've realized there's past life karma with that client, where they didn't necessarily get what they were promised from me. So I've got to make it right. So what we might do now, Steve, the big thing for me right now is that as difficult as the journey is, keep going. Yeah, absolutely. Sheldon, my road of trials, a struggle, but I'm trying to count it all joy, challenges. Yeah, absolutely. The one way you can counter all joy, this is where Grace is really fantastic, because one of the reasons she's such an important, co-leader with me with the work and everything she's doing is her ability to help balance the energies and quantum. So that's why I teach this stuff, for example. And but for example, Sheldon, I know one of the things Grace is very good at is balancing the energies and actually helping people to do that, because I found that side very difficult myself to balance it. Whereas we have this kind of joke, but like I'll sometimes be really upset about something and she'll say, well, where's the joy for you in it, Warren? Where's the benefits? And I'm like, there's no benefits, but she'll be going, well, there is. So she helps balance the energies of the group. So that's why she's such an important part, for example, of what I'm doing. So it's just, yeah, it's really important to do that kind of, so that's one way you can do it, is actually working it through. So she would get me to go through and list out the joy one by one. So when you're in a situation of pain, like I was really feeling it with my foot about a month ago, for example, like I was in a lot of pain in my heart about why it was taking so long to heal. I was getting scared. And then in the end, I just broke the whole thing down. And what I learned was just to look at the joy, like, how's this serving me? And straight away, I thought, well, it's actually helping me to slow down, because I was always running around doing stuff. So now I've got no choice but to stay home and meditate more. I couldn't go on long walks. I have to drive and sit in nature more and sit in green, because the one time my foot would feel better is when I rested in green grass and I could walk on grass or sand and not hard surfaces. So it got me connected with nature. I then discovered that I had a bit of a flaw in my joint, ankle joint, which had been there for years, which I've then started addressing. So after doing all those exercises, I very quickly was able to move in the joy. So it's really helpful. One way that can help to balance it out is when you're going through a trial, you just ask yourself those questions and break that down. So let's do a bit of a clearing now. So I'm going to get up a code. I'm just going to see which one I'm led to do. It's 1221. Let me see what I get. Okay, so perfect. So I'm going to just, yep, I found the code I want. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, everyone, how do you feel with this one? Oh, I like this one. Oh, this is the Ascended City of Enoch manifestation. Wow. Yeah, I love this. Oh, I just got jumped out at me, this one today. Wow, 1122 was 1221 before. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, well, this code is vibrating everywhere. For me, it's just moving and shifting and shape and changing shape. So just, yeah, allow it to really expand your heart and your mind. Whew. Lexi, my psychic sentence went into like relief at seeing this code, if this makes sense. Yeah. It's been very intense today, Lexi. So it's just, this code's really just shifting out all of that. Because what I feel is I stirred up a lot today. What I went into today, I really stirred things up. And this is actually clearing everything out like a hornet's nest. It's just bringing the darkness and the maggots and the worms out of people. So there's wounds and that festering wounds that are being opened up here in people. And just basically energies and various stuff. So this is just really releasing it all the old psychic energy. So just feel it being absorbed into the code and dissolving into it. Feel it dissolving, transforming, and feel the fire burning it all up. Because there's fire in this code. If you tune in, you'll feel it and see it. This is the 15th dimensional coding. Oh, it's really strong. Sam, my left eyelid is twitching like crazy. Yeah, wow. Yeah, your left eyelid, that's your receiving eye, Sam. Like your right is your yang, your left is your feminine. So that's just receiving. Like in Tantra, for example, the left eye, one of the things they get you to do in Tantra is look at left eye to left eye with your partner, because that actually activates a soul and activates the connection. So the left eye is just really activating connections. I'm just seeing a higher sun frequency really going through each and every one. So I'm just going to command that this code activate in each and everyone's pineal gland, right in each and everyone's third eye. That's what I'm getting. So just to go in there and widen scope and perspective is the word I'm getting. Let us expand and access and open up higher portals and dimensional grids. It has commanded all energies, past lives, incarnations, things that no longer serves, wounds, be cleared and released in all levels and all dimensions and all lifetimes from the third eye chakra now. Releasing the blocks around the third eye from karmic past lives that have just locked things up from the 15th century and the middle and the dark ages. Just release these cords, unlock these codes and these keys in each and every one. and bring back this sacred wisdom and knowledge from the vaults of the higher dimensions to regain access. I'm just seeing, it's really interesting. I'm actually seeing that for some reason, gates of access for many of you were locked up in the Middle Ages in past lives, and they're being reopened again. Halls of Amenti, seals being placed there by druids, by masters to stop you. And just obviously allowed access to do that due to the karma at the time, but the karma's been cleared and erased today. So now there's just perspective. So some of you will be feeling your third eye burning. Some of you will be feeling it expanding. Some of you will be feeling it almost like it's growing out, even growing into triangles like this code is what I'm seeing, which is just cutting away old energies and old things that no longer serve you. Releasing old woundings, bindings, just taking them away from you. Wow. Who's really feeling this release? Just seeing things open up. Who's actually feeling themselves open up even more? Yeah, for me, the throbbing headache and third eye is just being opened more and more. Yeah, you can actually ask right now because his master's actually opening it up. I actually see like locks and keys being used to open things. Yeah, it's pouring into my third eye, Fiona. Yeah, they're actually unlocking things, they're removing things, releasing things that were used to trap you and trap consciousness. Yeah, eyes keep blinking fast, my third eye expanding. Yeah, it is. It's actually expanding. That's what I see. Yeah, I see third eyes are really opening, and some of you are obviously feeling it like much more. Because as you open up more, you will actually start to see your past lives a bit more clearly than you were before. You will actually be able to see past and future a lot easier, which means you'll also see future events a lot easier, things that are happening around you. So for whatever reason, they're opening it up really wide for people. What's everyone else feeling? Just in the chat. What's people experiencing here? Some slight pain in my third eye. Yeah. Throbbing. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm seeing happening, Lexi. It's happening to quite a few. It's just, yeah, it's just opening your third eye more. So you can see more clearly. Nico, burning the way of the old. And that's interesting. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah, I'm seeing you in the dark ages next to a fire, Nico, for some reason. Yeah, William, this twisted energy knots in the third eye. Yeah, unraveling a lot of bees, burning them up is what I'm seeing, Will. 3 of my throbbing in the third eye. Yeah, there's lots of them, because what happens I'm seeing is that there was just various implants and various kind of ways to twist up the energy and lock up the third eye and stop you being able to see things from past lives and just see things more clearly. So that's just being burnt up and unraveled. Sheldon, slight pain in third eye. Yeah. Alex, opening up more, letting go of blockages. Yeah. Christine, a sense of something like anticipation change. Something is happening but can't explain. Yeah. I know what you mean. Miko, yeah, I love bonfires. Have in my backyard over winter to burn away the old. Yeah. So I see you doing next to a fire. So doing a ceremonial release is what I see you doing. Feel that would do you well in this, because I can see you in the Middle Ages sitting there next to a fire, but you were doing kind of witchcraft and voodoo. So it's like you can burn it away, release all those lifetimes and karma, like ceremonially, and step over into the new. That's what I'm seeing. Sometimes you get led to do something ceremonial. I got led, for example, to do frankincense burning for quite a few days and just actually release using frankincense and herbs. And that really helped me. So some of you may get led to do that for a fast or even just some kind of burning ritual. That's what I was led to do over the last couple of weeks, just a lot of frankincense burning. For me, the major release from third eye, now something in crown chakra. Yeah, wow. Yeah, so the crown chakra plugs you more into the 8th and 9th chakra. So learning to foster this connection between especially the third eye chakra, the 6th one and the 7th with your 8th and 9th is so important. This is something that Dr. Valoldo talks about in his book, and he says that many people continue to stay stuck in patterns because the imprints remain in the 8th and 9th chakra and don't get cleared. So a lot of his work is to do imprint clearing around the 8th and 9th chakras, because he says otherwise the patterns of that, the karma, just continue over and over again to happen. So just take a glass of water, everyone. And that's what I feel now. Sam, I can't stop thinking fast. I feel that the activation by and large is done, but in saying that, I feel it's still happening in people. So it's just doing its work right now. Some of you would feel that the activation's been done in you, and just take some water. Yeah, Miko, it's made me very thirsty. Yeah, same. I just drank a whole glass of water, Miko, and I've got to get another one. So Alex, windy here, things stirring, still happening, but thirsty. Yeah. Pain and tingling on the top of my head. Yeah. Christine, now it's affecting my gut, stirring something up. Yeah, this is interesting. It's really working here. Interesting for me. It feels like something on the top of my head being broken open, and Lexi's the same. Yeah, I can feel that stuff. Yeah, like Thor's hammer, because that's what I was seeing. I was seeing things actually being snapped off. Because what I saw is that the best way to explain it was what I saw was in this soul group that we're in. I saw it was in the Middle Ages where things happened, and somehow people's minds got blocked up from what was happening. Witchcraft, voodoo, various other things, various implants were put on, and they're all being broken off now. That's what I'm actually seeing. It's like a restoration is what's happening today. It's quite amazing. I'm watching it actually quite amazed, to be honest. Does anyone else get that sense? Yeah. Lexi is, I think, for Meta is too. I think there's quite a few people here. Sheldon, it's interesting because Lexi, Famita, and Sheldon are all over in the East Coast, so also in America in the Northern Hemisphere. Whereas everyone else here, I think, is in the Southern Hemisphere. So kind of gives me a bit of a clue. I have a feeling that whatever happened was over in the Northern Hemisphere. And I'd say most likely around the American, Canadian areas. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Wow, it's really expanding. I can feel people's heads and minds being really cleared out and watched out. I'm actually feeling a grief too. That's just releasing. So is anyone here feeling a real grief or sorrow that's come up or that's releasing? Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just getting all these flashbacks, and I'm seeing how much I'm seeing like tribal rituals happening in the mountains and a lot of stuff that was happening. So I have a feeling that's some of the insight into the soul group and what was happening. Just a quick feedback, everyone else. What's everyone else? Just type in where you're at, like if you feel it's finished for you, if it's done, or if something's still happening. Alex still soaking, Christine gut churning more. Yeah. Sam, I feel there were a group of us doing rituals that influenced government. Yeah, it was something like that. We definitely were doing some kind of witchcraft. And no doubt we all thought we were doing good, that's what I'm seeing, but we were delving into some stuff that, yeah, I see her sitting in trees in a bush area. Not sure if you're seeing it, Sam. For me, the hammering on head finish, now releasing taking place, yeah. Mark's still moving. Yeah, wow, it's still moving with people. Yeah, definitely outside, Sam. I agree. Yeah, the outcomes of people being murdered or not. Yeah. Yeah, so that explains why I'm feeling the grief, like sacrifices or something that happened. Blood sacrifices or something. I can't, yeah, or like you're saying, something was done. That's better when I've said that. So it's just allowing the wounds and the karma to clear and allow the blood of Christ just to clear that karma from us and from the region that happened in and from each and every one of us now. Let the blood of Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit just be released, be used to release all the karma. We just ask and give thanks for forgiveness, and just let the karma now be cleared. And all affected discarnates or souls or beings that were affected or trapped, just released. Let the portals of the higher dimensions be opened, that they may be all taken back to realms to receive their life review for rewards earned. Fiona felt like a hole in the top of my head, but a young Indian boy slid into my head like a curly slide. Wow. Yeah, I'm just seeing stuff like this. It's really interesting. Sheldon. Feel like my head cleared out, top of head now, just slightly, yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting that. So let's just connect with that young Indian boy, Fiona. I just feel like just allowing any karma with him and you just to release or something, whatever he's doing. Oh, wow, it's just a grief I'm feeling, heavy grief. Gosh, there's a lot clearing right now. Yeah, for me, it's crying. Yeah, I could see you crying a few minutes ago, for me. Yeah, there was some stuff done that really wasn't meant to be done. Yeah, Sam, I felt like my third eye is like an old slide projector and someone just took the cover off. Yeah, I was clearly told they're opening third eyes today now and removing things, massive expansion. That you're going to start seeing more past life and more higher frequency things. You're going to start seeing it now much more clearly after the day.
For me, I don't know what happened, but it was horrible. Yeah, there was blood sacrifices for me. I can actually see that. Somehow there was blood sacrifice involved, human sacrifice. I don't know why on earth that happened, but it happened. So the blood of Christ is just releasing it and releasing all of his souls back and asking for mercy and asking for release. Any of you feel connection with that, just type a Y if you feel connection with what was just said and know on some level you were involved or connected with that or knew what was going on. For me, definitely. Anyone else? Yeah, for me, they're getting on my knees and praying for forgiveness. Yeah, I feel for me that you do that on behalf of the group. That's what I'm feeling. Yeah, I actually feel for you to do that. That's why you're specifically being shown. I just have a feeling that it was somewhere near your area. Because I keep getting with someone's area and it's in the Northern Hemisphere and it's one of the people. And I feel it's probably you. So I feel if you release that prayer and pray for the group and pray for everyone that's going to release, that's what I'm getting. See, that's better. I can feel you're praying now because the grief wouldn't leave me and I was trying doing all the normal clearings and it was working, but there was something unresolved. So it's important what you're doing for whatever reason where you are. And also specifically pray for me to clear the grids and the energies of everything that's at that place. And kind of release any spells or curses upon the government or anything that was done upon governments or government agents or specific people or beings. Any witchcraft or voodoo that was done upon authorities or tribal chiefs or settlers or anyone else. Just feel it just to release, to ask always now be released and cleared off the land, off his people, because everyone got affected by these curses, is what I'm seeing. And they actually worked really well, these curses, really well. And I'm feeling as you're doing it, it's releasing. Can anyone else feel those sensations? Like feel the energy moving? It's like I'm feeling energy just flowing, expanding right out of my heart all around. I feel to read Psalm 91 as well. Does anyone feel to read Psalm 91? Come on, take the mic and read it. I was going to do it, but does anyone else feel to do that? I feel when we do that, that's finished today's meeting, that we finished today with reading Psalm 91.
Yeah, I'd like to do that, Warren.
Yeah, I felt that was right for you, Christine.
He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust. Surely He will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings shall you trust. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You will not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flies by day, nor for the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor for the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, your habitation, there shall no evil befall you, neither shall any plague come near your dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. They shall bear you up in their hands, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and adder, the young lion and the dragon you shall trample under feet. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he hath known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honour him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation.
Beautiful. I'm actually going to read Psalm 23 and then we'll close. That seems to go hand in hand with 91. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the quiet waters and restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for the sake of his name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. One thing I'd recommend everyone is after today, you go and get some water. Just in your meditation, the best way to develop your third eye and actually start to use that is you just trust, okay? So what I mean by trust is you can focus on the energy in the center of your head. So when you breathe and lie down or sit down in your lotus position, or when you sit down in a cross-legged position with spine erect, you breathe like for 4 counts, hold for 3 and out for 6, or whatever you choose to breathe. You can actually put your energy into the center of your head and your third eye till you feel it pulsing. And what you can do is actually, if you feel your third eye is kind of not opening easily, what you can do is imagine there's a tap, like a metal or a tap that's actually on your forehead, on the right, on say the right side of your forehead, like towards the side, well away from your third eye. And what you start to do is you start to turn the tap. And as you turn the tap, you visualize the third eye just opening up. And you keep seeing it open up. And you keep going until you feel it's open. And once it's opened, you just go with what you see and share or speak out or feel what you see. And that's a good way to practice doing that. You can practice with someone else who you do meditation with, or you can just do it yourself and see what you get. And then you'll be amazed what you start to see and what starts to open up for you. That's a really good practical little exercise you can do to start really getting used to opening your third eye and accessing Akashic records, seeing what's going on, feeling in the past lives, and even feeling what's going on in other places of the world. I've even done things like I'll open the third eye using the tap, which I do there. And then I'll imagine just walking into my third eye, like I see it like a portal or door. I walk through the door, and then I just say, go ahead. So like right now, for example, I might step, and some of you might do it with me. And we just walk, say 1 month, 2 months, 3 months into the future. So we now just walked ahead and we're standing in the future 3 months from now. Because remember, past, present, future are all one energy. And just notice what you feel and see. And I'll just let you do that for a minute to finish off, just to give you a bit of a taste of how you can do this yourself. as a bit of practice. And just type in the chat anything you see. Like if you just, my first sense when I went in there, like looking to see what's going on in the world, my first sense was things have settled down a little bit, to my surprise. Not much, but just could have been a calm before the storm, but I felt things had settled for a bit. So 3 months from now is the end of April. But like a calm before the storm was what I was getting. So Fiona, volcano eruption, yeah, okay. So what tends to happen is different people. So yeah, something, it's like there was an uneasy calm. Alex, brightness, Sam, calm and subdued. Yeah. Yeah, so that's just, what you also do is you can master intention, because what I didn't do there properly was do that. So for example, what you can do is you can be very clear, like you go into your own future for yourself, or you go into a future for the planet. So in a sense, probably quite a lot of you are going into your own future and you were seeing what was going on around you. So generally, yep, things are in a more peaceful place. Fiona, that might tell you, for example, that there's going to be some kind of eruption in your life. In other words, a whole change of circumstances or life for you. So you can always go into it and feel into it more. So Sam intended for my area. Yeah, I was doing it overall for what's going on in the media, what's actually happening around me. That was my intention. So again, your intention is very important. So what I'm introducing you there is to a very basic beginner's remote viewing. That's one of the ways you can do a bit of what's called extended remote viewing. Okay, well, it's precisely virtually 1 o'clock. So thank you, everyone. I trust you enjoyed today. Like, who got a lot out of today? Yeah, excellent. Great, wonderful. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, next week we'll continue with the hero's journey. So I will see you all next week, and some of you I'll see you during the week.